There will now be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Please be seated. Know why medication was not mentioned today? It's because I took my medication. Order. Before we proceed with today's business, wabuza impilo across. Uyanqola, uyavakala apha. Okay. I wish to announce that the vacancy which occurred in the National Assembly owing to the resignation of Mr. K Isiwela has been filled by the nomination of Ms. M.L. Muruwane or Muruwane, with effect from the 9th of May 2023. Lastly, the vacancies which occurred owing to the resignations of Mr. C. Brink and Mr. N.E. Yinana have been filled by the nominations of Mr. S.J. Moore and Mr. B.C. Golding, respectively. Yes, the two members, I can see they are here. You may stand so that the members can see you. Thank you. And yes, Honorable Member.
My sincere apologies, Honorable Speaker, for the non-attendance in the house of Miss Lydia Muruwane. She's attending on virtual platform. The reason for her absence is because they were still working on the house that she's supposed to occupy. So Parliament doesn't pay for more than a week in a hotel. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Chief Whip. The members made and subscribed to the oath and affirmation in the Speaker's office. I welcome you, honorable members. The first item on today's order paper is questions addressed to the Deputy President. There are 4 supplementary questions on each question. Parties have given an indication of which questions their members wish to pose a supplementary question. Adequate notice was given to parties for this purpose. This was done to facilitate participation of members who are connecting to the sitting through the virtual platform. The members who will pose supplementary questions will be recognized by the presiding officer. In allocating opportunities for supplementary questions, the principle of fairness, amongst others, has been applied. If a member who is supposed to ask a supplementary question through the virtual platform is unable to do so due to technological difficulties, the party whip on duty will be allowed to ask the question on behalf of their member. When all the supplementary questions have been answered by the Deputy President, we will proceed to the next question on the question paper. Members asking supplementary questions or raising points of order may remain seated when doing so. The first question has been asked by the Honorable MME Tlape to the Deputy President. The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, honorable members, good afternoon and happy Africa Day. As you may be aware, the theme for this year is Our Future, Our Africa. Let me then proceed to the question. Honorable Speaker, next month will mark 110 years since the enactment of the 1913 Natives Land Act. It is now known that the 1913 Land Act resulted in people being removed from productive land and headed into native reserves and conditions of squalor. We are therefore duty-bound to reverse the injustices of land dispossession. Hence, land reform remains one of our foremost policy interventions in realizing our social transformation agenda. Equally, embarking on land reform is to ensure economic growth and inclusion in all sectors of the economy, particularly the entire agricultural and agro-processing value chain, thus sustainable food security. Honorable Speaker, we are the first to acknowledge that the pace of land reform in the country has been slow. In line with Section 25 of the Constitution, which instructs us, amongst others, to take reasonable legislative and other measures within its available resources, the state should foster conditions which enable citizens to gain access to land on an equitable basis. The National Assembly has passed the Appropriation Bill, which is currently under consideration by the National Council of Provinces. However, government has made the following interventions already. 700,000 hectares of state land were identified for redistribution, and advertisements were circulated to the public in October 2020. A total of 659,000 hectares of land were considered and approved for allocation, which translates to about 1,459 farms. 245,000 hectares of land that had been acquired and allocated to targeted beneficiaries, which include 107,000 hectares to women, 85,000 to youth, and 489 hectares to people living with disabilities. 25,000 hectares of the acquired land has been allocated for tenure reform purposes. We have, Honorable Speaker, recruited over 4,500 assistant agricultural practitioners to provide technical support to farmers. Honorable Speaker, as the government, we continue to provide support to beneficiaries of land redistribution through financing, training, market access, irrigation, and the provision of seeds, fertilizers, and equipments, all of which contribute to sustainability, particularly of emerging agricultural enterprises. Last week, we had an opportunity to engage directly with young and emerging farmers at the Sedera College of Agriculture in Pietermaritzburg. During this meeting, there was a strong commitment from all role players, including farmers, to work together in building sustainable agriculture operations, creating jobs, and ending poverty. Together with the Minister of Agriculture, Land Reform, and Rural Development, the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal Province and other members of the executive have made a commitment to support Sedera College and other such centers of excellence. Honorable Speaker, the government is indeed prioritizing requisite support mechanism for emerging farmers. In this regard, the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development has put in place a number of programs, both financial and technical support to emerging farmers. Amongst others, this includes the Comprehensive Agricultural Support Program and Ilima Litsima, which is aimed at resourcing and equipping producers towards increased food production and other value chain activities. The Land Development Support Program, which support land reform, acquired farms with infrastructure, farm machinery and equipment, production, development inputs, and provision of technical support, including mentorship. The Blended Finance Scheme, which support commercialization. The South African Good Agricultural Practices Certification Program, which assists farmers to meet minimum food safety and quality requirements, and thus ease access to markets. And lastly, collaboration with the Japan International Cooperation Agency and the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization for the implementation of the farmer field schools. Both this intervention enhance the provision of extension services for small-scale farmers towards attaining sustainable food production and market access. Honorable Speaker, lastly, as part of comprehensive farmer support, the government will continue to implement steps to capacitate producers with requisite skills and mentorship programs based on their needs at the farm level. This capacity building assistant farmers to optimize both production and marketing operations. These interventions, including targeted policy instruments, seek to provide clear deliverables that are aimed at accelerating land reform, agricultural production, directly contributing to South Africa's food security and growing of productive outputs. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable MME Tlape.
Thanks, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, surely all these interventions and land allocations could be scaled down into a contract between government and beneficiaries. So, Honorable Deputy President, what are the expected responsibilities on part of the beneficiaries that will make interventions, particularly the transformational agenda of land reform, successful? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Our approach, Honorable Member, is that sustainable land reform programs require participation of beneficiaries. In other words, we would like the recipients not to be passive when they get the assistance from government, to come with initiatives themselves of how they utilize the land to be able to ensure successful production. There are many ways in which government can support these beneficiaries, as I said earlier, particularly small-scale farmers, where they have decided that they'll use their land for farming. We will be able to support them with machinery, with various skills, but also supporting them with seeds and other necessary items that will help them to be successful. Government, as I said, also have developmental programs that are aimed at supporting particularly emerging farmers. We would not like to be very prescriptive on what people should do with their land once they have received the land, but obviously we want them to use the land productively. There have been complaints previously that some recipients of land redistribution or restitutions are not using the land productively. And in many instances, you will find a lot of land lying fallow. So government is there not to just to make this possible for them to get land, but also to continue to support them as they come with various initiatives, as I indicated. Thank you very much, Honorable Member.
I thank you, Deputy President, Honorable Deputy President. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Eskom.
Deputy President, South Africa is not an island. Our decisions on the global scale have a direct impact on the cost of living crisis. Over 30 million South Africans are living in poverty. 7 out of 10 young people do not have work. In fact, 98% of new jobs in the last quarter came from the Western Cape. The other 8 provinces put together 2% of jobs. Government is quick to remind us that our economic troubles are made worse by the Russia-Ukraine war. Yet government's position on this war has been at odds with our constitution. You are the
Order.
head of the ministerial task team.
No, continue.
You are the
I'm
head.
protecting you.
All right. You are the head of the ministerial task team looking into President Putin's likely visit to South Africa in August, in spite of the ICC's arrest against him. How will government defying our own laws, which expect us to action the warrant against him? And will this reckless move not place in jeopardy lucrative trade agreements which allow us to cushion struggling South Africans from rising food prices?
Honorable Deputy President, you may want to respond to the latter part of that question, but actually it really has very little to do with the original question. Proceed, Deputy President.
I thought the members things that President Putin will help me with land reform. Yes, Honorable Speaker, I thought let's focus on land reform because it's a very critical matter for the country. There will be time when we can talk about Ukraine and Russia, and I will gladly respond. So, but if you talk about rising food prices, it's actually what is happening throughout the world. We have already acknowledged that there are challenges globally that impact on us, and some of them have led to increase in prices of goods and services. So let me divert a bit and say to you that I think it's important that we must help beneficiaries of land reform to become productive with the land that they have, particularly to cushion them from trying to get foreign goods, particularly food. If they can use that land productively, they can produce food for themselves and able to sustain themselves. But obviously, if they become real farmers, we will support them and they can produce food for all of us, because food security is very important. Then we may worry less about what is happening in the world with wars, because we can sustain ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. Thank you. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable W. Vessels.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Deputy President, if one looks at the land restitution reports, then one sees that 93% of beneficiaries of land restitution claims opted to receive financial compensation rather than the land. That's taken into account together with trustworthy surveys conducted recently, which shows that the majority of South Africans places land, and especially agricultural land, very low on their list of needs and priorities. Is it then, or why is it then, that government still create the perception that land is so important with regards to economic transformation? And is it not more important that the question and the complicated problem is addressed by finding a balance between getting land for housing projects whilst or preserving food security? Because would you not agree, Mr. Deputy President, that housing is a crisis and not a need for agricultural land, but rather urban housing, but that we have a shortage of land available for that, or that is actually utilized for that, and there's no
Way
concrete
beyond
plan
your
by government in that
allocated time,
regard.
Honorable
Thank you.
Vessels. Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Vessels. The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Vessels, I said at the beginning that the majority of our people were forcefully removed from their land. In other words, the land was taken away from them, particularly with the Land Act of 1913, confined to what became known as homelands. So they occupied 13% of the land, yet they are the majority in this country. So we are trying to redress that. It's a program that we can't run away from. There may be weaknesses, is that maybe some of the beneficiaries opt for money, they don't see land as productive, but we're going to push that people must appreciate that we're bringing back the land to them, their land. And we from this side of the house have always been convinced that the struggle in our country has always been the struggle for land that was taken away. So I think it's important that we must not deviate from that. Yes, housing is very important, particularly urban houses. We are busy doing that, as you know. We have built more than 4,000 to 5,000 subsidized housing throughout the urban areas. But we must continue with the program to give back people their land that was taken away. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable S.N. Swart.
Thank you, Speaker. Arising from your response, Honourable Deputy President, the ACDP appreciates that the land question is a very emotive one, given the 2013 Land Act. We've consistently said that we are not opposed to land restitution, but the answer lies not in the why, but the how. We've also said that expropriation of land without compensation is not the panacea to the land question. Can the Honourable Deputy President confirm whether government intends considering relevant recommendations of the Motlanthe high-level panel, as well as the final report of the Presidential Advisory Panel on Land Reform and Agricultural Act, and more specifically, Honourable Deputy President, what is being done to address rampant corruption that characterizes the restitution and land reform process highlighted in those reports, as well as the Special Investigating Unit? Corruption clearly threatens the land reform process and reduces the amount of funds available for financial and technical support for emerging farmers. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Swart. The Honorable Deputy President.
Honorable Swart, thank you very much. We have welcomed the Motlanthe report as the African National Congress. And I agree with you that where there is corruption, we need to intervene decisively because the program of giving people land must ensure that it really benefits them. And of course, as I said earlier, it's not just a program of returning the land to the people, but supporting them to use the land productively. So the Motlanthe report is fully supported. In fact, we are busy with it at the moment in the ANC to look at how we implement various recommendations that the Motlanthe report has come up with. So I agree with you that we should spend a lot of time focusing on that question of the how. So we'll be glad to work with you on in that regard, because I can see that you are a man committed to this question of returning the land to the people. So let's work up together on the how. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. Question number 8 has been asked by the Honorable Eskom to the Deputy President. The Honorable Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. Honorable Speaker, Section 154 of the Constitution enjoins us to support and strengthen the capacity of municipalities to manage their own affairs, to exercise their powers, and to perform their functions. Through the interministerial committee that I have the honor to chair, we are supporting municipalities to accelerate service delivery. The IMC also serves as a catalyst to build financially resilient and stable municipalities by, amongst others, focusing on the following. 1, identify service delivery hotspots for intervention as we have been doing so far. 2, ensure alignment of plans, including infrastructure development plans and operations with national, provincial, and districts in line with the district development model. Honorable Speaker, the matter of coalition government is important and require urgent attention and our collective wisdom. I have responded to similar questions in the National Council of Provinces about coalition governments and a need to convene a national dialogue on coalitions, and more specifically on reasons why municipalities are dysfunctional due to the absence of a regular framework guiding coalitions. Honorable Speaker, in response to the question by the Chief Whip of the Opposition, I acknowledge the intention by the Honorable Member to introduce the Private Members Bill on coalition governments. To begin with, I would like to reiterate that SALGA did develop a framework for coalitions. We did observe in our previous response that the existing framework has weaknesses. And as a result, we committed to convene a dialogue to discuss and develop a coherent coalition framework. Before stating whether we support the bill or not, I'd like to outline principles that should serve as a foundation for a coalition between and with any political party in South Africa. The first one is putting people first by making them the tenants of our value system in the formation of governments. And this we must do in the spirit of Batupili. The measurements of the performance of coalitions must be about what we have done to improve the quality of lives of our people for the better. Second one, coalition governments must be committed to combating poverty and deprivation, as well as building a growing and inclusive economy, and must report regularly by providing evidence of poverty reduction, growing the economy, and including the majority in the mainstream of the economy. Third one, coalition governments must contribute towards building a prosperous society in which people have access to land for productive purposes and are meaningfully participating in the economy. Fourth, coalition government must be committed to building non-racialism, non-sexism, democratic, united, and a prosperous society. Fifth, coalition governments should be bound together by a commitment to good governance with no tolerance for corruption. And lastly, six, the party that has won the largest votes in an election should be allowed to lead the coalition, and the executive positions should then be allocated proportionally to the votes obtained by the coalition partners. I think it's something that you make in your private members' bill, so we agree. Honorable Speaker, the above mentioned principle will then constitute the basis of the discussion at the national level, engaging in that dialogue where we can then come to an agreement on the national framework. We want to do this, honorable member, within the next 2 months. We are taking into account the fact that there are elections next year. So we don't want to delay it. Honorable Speaker, working with the Minister of Kokta, we will be inviting all political parties represented in Parliament to the dialogue on the principle of coalition governments across all spheres of government, while we are urgently attending to the issue of dysfunctionality of municipalities as a result of current loosely arranged coalitions, particularly as we can see in local government. All political parties will be invited to start depositing inputs and views to the technical committee led by the presidency and COPTA to help develop the framework for coalition governments, which will consequently lead to the development of legislation. So you can see we are getting there. We want to build consensus, because if we don't together as political parties, we will fail our people and our economy will collapse. So the time has come that we should foster more unity as political parties so that we can ensure that our country becomes prosperous. The time for unity of the country is now. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable S. Gwahube.
Deputy President, I agree with you that any form of government must be willing to put the people first. We have noted that the ANC has lost control in most of the metros in the country, and research indicates that you are likely to lose majority in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng too, over and above the national majority that you have. But the instability, Deputy President, where we agree is that the instability we've seen at a local level cannot be replicated at a national level, because the instability has also been due to checkbook politics underscored by political maturity. So I'm glad that you are asking for a national dialogue. But I'm asking you today that when these bills come to Parliament, can you, as the Deputy President, in your capacity as the Deputy President of your party and the country, assure the South Africans out there that we will have enough political maturity to come together and pass legislation that meets all these requirements as you have stated here today, and that we will put petty political differences aside and put the people first?
Thank you, Honorable Kwahobe. The Honorable Deputy President.
Honorable Member Kwahobe. Yeah, got it right. We are moving in the same direction, but we shouldn't put the cart before the horse. So we are saying, as parties, if we agree on a framework, the process of legislation is going to be smoother, be easy. So my suggestion is that bring your private members' bill to me. Yeah, bring it. Because what we're going to do, we want to take all these elements, and when we do that dialogue, I suppose the DA will send you. Yeah, so or you send yourself. So you can see we're not against legislation. We are saying let's do this framework and then take it there. In fact, you'll be glad to know that there's already a technical min-mac of COGTA that is busy with that. So my office will write to you to tell you when the dialogue is. I said within 2 weeks, we must get this right. Then we move to that direction. In that dialogue, you're going to have an opportunity to make an input that is in your private members' bill. I've read it. You have quite interesting points there, but the dialogue is going to give you a very nice platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable L.E. Mulala.
Thank you, Deputy President of the Republic. What is the view of the Deputy President about the impact of failing coalition governments on our communities? And what measures is taken by the national and provincial governments which will assist to mitigate these instabilities of coalition governments?
Thank you, Honorable Mulala. The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mulala. By coming up with this national framework, we want to ensure that we deal with the instability that we see. The approach to coalition at the local government level has not been underpinned by solid principles. So you end up people really fighting for spoils, basically. You know, you can have a mayor position and have a deputy. In some instances, they even create those positions. You find a small municipality that doesn't even have a good budget, but want to have a deputy mayor so that we can allocate it to someone. So we want to support them at the national level. Firstly, to ensure that coalitions are underpinned by principles first. What I've read here is not a cast in stone. I think that the dialogue will allow people to add, because once you agree on principles, it's then easy to then agree on who does what. So we are very clear that let's do this, let's agree on this framework, but we must not remove the ability of the national government to support, to intervene. In fact, we know that provinces do intervene. And they use section 139 if they see that things are falling apart. But there's also, as I said earlier, section 154, which is give support first. You give support, and only as a last resort, when things are not working, then you come with 139. But the underlying approach at the beginning must always be support first, and support municipalities to be able to succeed. And when they can't, then you are able to come with section 39. So yes, the current regime of coalitions in our county and local government is shaky. And I think we need to intervene to make sure that it follows solid principles to be able to succeed, because it's a government closest to where our people are. So if local government fail, we fail as a country. So I'm very, very keen to ensure that we stay closer to what local government does. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable CP Mulder.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. I think it's a historic discussion we are having at this moment. For the first time in 29 years, the ruling party is talking about coalitions. And the reason for that is, we all know what the reason for that is. Now, I need to send perhaps a warning that if we want to talk about legislation, legislation should not be something that should be used to try and keep a party that is losing power in power. That's the reality. The fact of the matter is that those things that you have mentioned just now as principles are not principles, those are policy positions. Legislation should be very careful that we do not try to put policy positions into principles in terms of how a coalition should be structured. It is not technically correct to say that coalitions are failing. There are many, many successful coalitions at this very moment. All I know they are not. Those that are failing are in some of the
Honorable members.
some of the metros, and there are very good reasons for that. You mentioned section 154. That's absolutely correct, and that places an emphasis on what provincial government should do. There's also chapter 3 in terms of cooperative governance. The problem is that there's a determined effort to undermine coalition governments. Your very good friend, the Premier of Gauteng, Mr. Lesufi,
Honorable
attended
member,
each and every
your
opportunity to destabilize.
time is
He did
up.
not attend the state of the province address, the state of the city. My question, sir,
Yes, your question.
why do you want to come with legislation now while the ANC is going to lose power?
Thank you, Honorable Melder. Honorable members, please.
You, honorable member, thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Melder, you would be surprised that coalitions is not our favorite as the ANC. We are going to campaign next year to win. Yeah. So, Honorable Melda, I'll meet you on the ground, because we are campaigning to win. The reason why we're discussing coalitions is, of course, we want to be realistic as a party that at local government, we saw this happening. We'd not developed a proper framework and things went haywire. So I think any party that is worth its salt will have a vision and prepare for that future. We are saying in an event where we end up not winning outrightly, then we are looking at what kind of approach do we take. If we're going to coalitions, how should they look like? But we are not saying, oh, please, Parliament, support coalitions quickly because we're in trouble. No, we are not. We are not.
Thank you.
Uh,
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President.
Yes, so we don't want to come up with legislation to keep losers in power. I said earlier when I spoke that it is important that the party that wins the majority should be allowed to lead. Because at the moment you have that problem where people are making deals, okay, we have not won elections, but if you give us this post, we'll support you. We are saying, because remember, winning elections is the will of the people. So when you allow the party,
Order. Allow him to speak.
yeah.
Please, honorable members.
Allow me to speak. This is a very important point. When you have won most of the votes and you are allowed to lead the coalition, that represents the interests of the people. But if you do it the other way, if you take a party that didn't win to lead, it's no longer the will of the people. So let's design a model that is consistent with the will of the people. That's all we are saying. But next year we are campaigning to win.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Buthelezi.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I like the fact that the Deputy President is very realistic. And as you have admitted that we can't avoid coalitions, and that is a clear indication that you admit that the ANC is definitely going to lose.
I never.
Also, the fact that the IFP is known to have brought sense and stability wherever we are involved.
Yes.
Can the Deputy President then agree with me that whatever form of coalition that will emerge come next year, there should be at the exclusion of the ANC, because that would have amounted to be people rejecting you because you are the cause of all our problems.
Thank you, Honorable Buthelezi. The Honorable Deputy President.
Honorable Buthelezi, I thought that you will be the first to support me because the ANC and the IFP were amongst the first parties to discuss coalitions. If you remember 2016, myself and Honorable Singh were leading that process. So all I'm saying, it's not new, I'm just saying, let's design it properly. We are not desperate. We are going to challenge you even in KZN. I know that you are very comfortable that you will win KZN. We are coming. We are coming to KZN. Yeah, but remember, Honorable Buthelezi, this discussion is not new. We are just saying, let's firm it up. And I think you'll be the first to come to that dialogue. Yeah, yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. Question number 9 has been asked by the Honorable K J Mileham to the Deputy President. The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the mandate of the Special Envoy to South Sudan differs with that of the South African ambassador in that the latter deals with normal bilateral relations between the two countries. The special envoy, on the other hand, is tasked with assisting in the search for durable peace in South Sudan. The immediate task of the special envoy is to help the parties to the transitional government of national unity in South Sudan with the implementation of the revitalized agreement on the resolution of conflict in South Sudan, the RACSA. For a brief background, I won't be long, honorable member, but just a brief background. South Sudan became an independent republic on the 9th of July 2011, following a referendum 7 months earlier in January, in which 98.83% of the citizens voted in favor of secession from the Republic of Sudan. Barely 2 years later, in 2013, fighting broke out within the ranks of the army. The one known as Sudan People's Liberation Army, SPLA. One faction of the army supported President Salva Kiir, while another one aligned with Vice President Riek Machar. In 2015, the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, the IGAD, which is the region's economic community, brokered the agreement on the resolution of the conflict in the Republic of South Sudan, which led to a brief pause in fighting, what one may refer to as ceasefire. Renewed peace efforts would then be made again later in 2018 under the stewardship of the Sudan President Omar al-Bashir and Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni. This culminated in the signing of what became known as the Revitalized Agreement on the Resolution of Conflict in the Republic of South Sudan, signed by the 9 political signatories and 16 civil society formations in Khartoum, in Sudan. However, former Deputy Chief of the South Sudan Army, Thomas Cirillo, refused to sign the agreement and now leads the National Salvation Front.
Honorable Patrain, mute please. Please mute your mic.
Okay,
Proceed, Deputy President.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah, if the honorable members online can watch their gadgets, you see, Honorable Meshwa is listening attentively to this. Let's not disturb him. Honorable Speaker, I said former Deputy Chief of the South Sudan Army, Thomas Cirillo, refused to sign the agreement and now leads the National Salvation Front as a rebel group which operates in the central and western equatorial states. The National Salvation Front regularly clashes with the South Sudan People's Defense Forces. This has led to the displacement of thousands of people and represent a threat to the Al-Aqsa. The Al-Aqsa, which is the resolution of conflict in the Republic of South Sudan, established a power-sharing mechanism amongst the belligerent parties. Under the agreement, South Sudan must draft and adopt a constitution to replace the transitional constitution adopted during the independence in 2011. The country must also hold a national general election at the end of the lifespan of the agreement. South Africa chairs the African Union High-Level Ad Committee for South Sudan, also known as the C5, composing of South Africa, Algeria, Chad, Nigeria, and Rwanda. The C5 was established by the African Union Assembly of Heads of States and Government in 2015 to lend political and other support to the South Sudan peace process. Evidently, the work of the Special Envoy contributes to the efforts to silence the guns. It seeks to complement IGAD, the African Union, and the United Nations in the search for peace in South Sudan, the region, and also the wider African continent. Honorable Speaker, early this week, I had a virtual meeting with Mr. Nicholas Hayzim, a distinguished South African who serves as special representative of the United Nations mission in South Sudan to discuss the situation in that sister African country. In the coming weeks and months, I will be engaging fully with the various parties to the conflict, South Sudan's members, but particularly members of the C5 and relevant players beyond the region and continent. The attainment of peace in South Sudan will help to stabilize an already strained Horn of Africa region, which its various levels of social and political conflict within and between countries. Peace must also lead to the development of efforts which should in turn contribute to the material upliftment of the people. It should also help to address a plethora of social and political problems, including stemming the plethora of migration. Honorable Michaud, I know that at the moment, more than 5,000 people have been crossing the border from the Sudan to South Sudan. So already there's a lot of developments that destabilizes the situation there. In this regard, South Sudan is one of the world's most, probably many people know this, South Sudan is one of the world's most fertile places. It has good agricultural potential. They also have the abundance of water and oil, etc. So it's important that we assist that country to stabilize so that they can use these good resources to develop their country for their own people, but also become a stable member of all countries in the continent. Honorable Speaker, South Sudan has all it takes to become one of the economic hubs in East Africa and the Horn of Africa, but only if we can bring peace. As all of us are aware, today is Africa Day, as I said earlier. This is a day on which the Organization of African Unity, the forerunner to the AU, was formed by 32 heads of states independent African states in Ethiopia, capital of Addis Ababa. Those visionary giants of invasion an Africa free of colonialism and apartheid, they also dreamed of a peaceful, democratic, and prosperous continent whose peoples enjoy the best quality of life that the continent can offer. Such an Africa is possible. Let us roll up our sleeves to make it a reality. So we have to silence the guns in South Sudan as well, and the whole of the Sudan. Thank you very much.
Thank
Honorable
you,
Speaker.
Honorable Deputy President. The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable K J Mileham.
Thank you, Speaker. And thank you, Honorable Deputy President, for that long reply. What I also want to know from you, sir, is whether your mandate as leader of the Republic's peace missions includes finding out who finances and supplies the warring factions with arms and ammunition? Or does your mandate only involve sitting around the table to discuss peace while the destabilizers and instigators continue to make money from supplying arms and other war equipment to the warring parties? If this is the approach and no investigations take place, then the work of the African Union and the United Nations to help bring about peace in times of conflict will never bring lasting peace, and we will never know who benefits from these unending wars on the African continent, particularly in South Sudan. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Deputy President.
Yes, there are honorable members, Honorable Misha, they say they want a short version of my answer. Yes, indeed, if we're involved in a peace process, inevitably, we will take interest on who supplies funds and guns to perpetuate the conflict. It's inevitable. Because if you sit around the table and discussing peace, but you're not dealing with this issue, then you have not started your peace process. So when we convene the C5, this will be at the heart of our discussion, because we mean it when we say we want peace. So we can't go there and say, guys, let's have peace, but we don't care who's supplying guns, who's bringing money. The people who supply guns and money are perpetuating the conflict, and therefore they must be stopped. So this will be at the heart of our discussion when we convene as C5. Thank you very much. I hope that was a short version.
Thank you, Deputy President. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable OMC Mautwe.
I will take it, Speaker. Just a minute. I was not ready.
Honorable member, proceed, please.
Quick question.
Honorable Mkalipi, I'll come back to you. I will give an opportunity now
No,
to Honorable Sheikh Imam.
I'm ready, Speaker. Sorry for that.
You are ready, Honorable Mkalipi?
Thank you very much, Speaker. Deputy President, I'm representing Honorable Maotwe. She's coming late to the House. Deputy President, there's been a gradual degeneration of the role of the African Union in fostering peace and in holding the space for Pan-Africanist space of African development, including the role of maintaining peace in the continent. The crisis in Sudan, as was the crisis in Ethiopia, in Mali, in Central African Republic, and many other places. It is an indicative of this vacuum left by the AU, leaving imperialist forces time and space to ferment disunity and violence in the continent. Why has South Africa neglected its leadership role in the continent? And what does the AU need to do to reassert itself on matters of the continent, including that of maintaining peace in areas such as Sudan? Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Mkalipi. The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Kalipi, on behalf of Honorable Mautwe. No, we're not neglecting our role in the continent. We are fully involved. In fact, the African Union is involved in this mission. So we are not alone as South Africa going to South Sudan or trying to ensure that there's peace in the Sudan. The African Union is fully involved. We're going to be working with them. Just a week ago, the president was in Burundi, where they were dealing with issues of conflicts in the eastern DRC. So we are there in the continent. As part of our intervention in South Sudan, I will be leading a mission to South Sudan as an envoy of the president to be able to deal with these issues. And as I said, a few days ago had a discussion with the special envoy to the Secretary General, who is a special envoy on South Sudan. So we we are beginning to pull things together. You'll recall that former Deputy President David Mabuza spent a lot of time going to South Sudan and other areas of conflicts in the continent. Of course, there was a challenge because with the advent of COVID-19, he was not able to sustain those initiatives. So I'm sort of reviving those initiatives now, and I will take over from where he left to make sure that we can complete this mission. As I said earlier, you'll recall I said we want them to adopt a democratic constitution. We want them to have elections sooner rather than later. So yes, Honorable Member, we will sustain our leadership in the continent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable A.M. Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Deputy Minister, we don't need to be a rocket scientist to know that a country which produced the highest level of gold production in 2022, added to having some of the most fertile land, water, gold, chrome, zinc, and aluminium, that there will be war there. Now, there are serious allegations that there are certain countries, including the USA, that are funding the warring factions and promoting this instability. In your intervention as a special envoy and the deliberations that took place, is there any evidence or information that was unfolded that there are indeed interference by countries in what is happening in Sudan? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Sheikh Imam. The Honorable Deputy President.
Honorable Sheikh Imam, thank you very much. I said earlier that when we convene the meeting of C5, one of the things we'll be doing is addressing exactly what Honorable Michaud was saying. You know, who supplies arms, funding, because if you don't deal with that, then you're not going to have peace. But I'm not in a position at the moment to say definitively, this is the person who's supplying. I think we should leave that to the next process where we are able to engage and have the real facts on the table so that we don't accuse anybody wrongly. So for now, I want to leave it at that to say, yes, that's something that we must pay attention to. And because these processes are very transparent, people will know once we have the facts, who's to blame for the raging war in that part of the African continent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable M.S. Chabane.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Deputy President, for the comprehensive response. Deputy President, the ANC-led government has been in the forefront to drive towards realization of goals of the African Union, especially promoting peace, security, and stability in the continent. Noting the peace initiative of undertaken by the then former President, David Mabuza, can the President assure this House that our government will continue to ensure that there's peace and stability in the region, and also outline interventions to consolidate efforts by the C5 as the Deputy President has highlighted? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chabane. The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Chabane, most definitely, as I've just said, that the work that former Deputy President Mabuza did will be continued. I had an opportunity to work with him very closely when he was dealing with that task. At some point, the President sent us together on some missions. So I'm very familiar with the work he was doing. And as one of our leaders, we continue to look at the work he did, and we will certainly be in touch with him, because I think it's important that we continue our support for the revitalized transitional government of national unity. They have a huge responsibility to ensure that the peace process holds in South Sudan. We had some indications lately that, there are elements that are making the ceasefire shaky. So it's important that we must come strongly to support them so that we are able to ensure lasting peace there. So I will be engaging with the various parties. As I said, those who are members of the C5, we have actually started the process to convene. And following our discussion with the special envoy of the Secretary General, we are looking at a meeting with the warring parties there as soon as possible. So you can be assured that South Africa is not pulling back. We are committed to this work, and we are going to make sure that there is lasting peace in South Sudan so that the people can focus on real development and make sure that they thrive and their people have a better life. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. Question number 10 has been asked by the Honorable Nsimango to the Deputy President. The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, on the 5th of May, 2023, I met with the Chairperson and Deputy Chairperson of the National House of Traditional Leaders, Traditional and Khoisan Leaders, as well as the Minister and Deputy Minister of Kokta. The meeting discussed, amongst others, the issue of the safety of traditional leaders in our country. We also discussed the importance of strengthening the institution of traditional leadership. The high rate of the killing of traditional leaders, particularly in provinces like KwaZulu-Natal, remains a serious concern to us. In this regard, the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs in the province entered into a memorandum of understanding with the Department of Community Safety Liaison to address this matter. As part of ongoing efforts to address the killings of traditional leaders and rural safety in general, the Minister of Police, Honorable Becky Cele, launched the National Rural Safety Strategy previously. This strategy remains an important instrument of addressing rural safety through an integrated day-to-day policing approach by creating a safe and secure rural environment. The South African Police Service also participates in the work stream of the interministerial task team that is dealing with the issue of the killings of traditional leaders and rural safety in general. In order to enhance the implementation of the National Rural Safety Strategy, the South African Police or Police Service has initiated the concept of traditional policing, which has been welcomed by the Institution of Traditional Leadership. Honorable Speaker, we are aware that in certain instances, succession disputes create tensions within the Institution of Traditional Leadership. To this end, the Traditional and Khoisan Leadership Act was passed by Parliament in 2019. The Act clearly outlines processes to be followed when nominations and recognition of heirs to the throne of traditional leadership are conducted. As a government, we will continue to work closely with them, with the National House of Traditional and Khoisan leaders through the inter-ministerial task team to address challenges that affect the stability of the institution and the development of traditional communities. We are also discussing the notion of the King's Forum as one of the mechanisms to strengthen the institution of traditional leadership. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, I'm currently undertaking various provincial visits to take forward the commitments that were made by my predecessor in an effort to further strengthen our partnership and address matters of concern to the institution of traditional leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. The first supplementary question be asked by the Honorable Msimango.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, Deputy President. One thing that needs to be noted, Deputy President, which is one of the things that I must appreciate before, is that you are hands-on, because in your response, it's clear that you have met with structures, in particular those that are leading traditional institutions. Now, the question, Deputy President, do you envisage that the current traditional courts bill will contribute to enhance measures to build a cohesive traditional communities and family units in rural areas? Thank you very much, Deputy President.
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Simang. Yes, indeed, I think it will. I've actually looked at the elements or the object of the bill, and if I may quote some of them, is to affirm the values of customary law and customs in the resolution of disputes based on restorative justice and reconciliation, and to align them with the Constitution. Secondly, affirm the role of traditional courts in terms of customary law by, amongst others, promoting coexistence, peace, harmony in the community, enhancing access to justice by providing a forum for dispute resolution in accordance with the principle that recognizes participation by all parties, and also promoting and preserving those traditions, customs, and cultural practices. So yes, indeed, I think if we look at that bill, it's strengthening the institution in a positive way. And I think it will also create uniform legislative framework that will regulate the structures and functioning of the traditional courts, enhance its effectiveness, etc. So in brief, I agree that this is a very important bill, and it should be supported. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Buthelezi.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Your Excellency, DP, the question posed by Honorable Simang is very important and sensitive in that it speaks to that which seeks to, that which has a potential to undermine the traditional leadership institution. So in light of what one of our statesmen and a senior member of this House, Prince Mahustu Buthelezi, used to say that the outstanding matter of powers, roles, and functions of Amakosi must be addressed once and for all in our constitution. So don't you think that to achieve whatever that you want to achieve in terms of bringing stability and total peace, you need to first address this matter?
Honorable Deputy President.
Well, as I said earlier, Honorable House Chair, that we see this bill as a way of really bringing cohesiveness in the institution of traditional. We believe that the objects of the bill, if you look at them at the moment, will ensure that once passed into law, the Act will be able to contribute to social cohesion. And of course, I think the issue of the powers of Amakosi, as Honorable Msimang is saying, you can raise the issue in the current debate as we deal with this matter. But I think this is taking us in the right direction, and there are many Amakhosi out there who are very supportive that we should move in that direction. And we're working very closely with the House of Traditional and Khoisan leaders. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Whitfield.
Deputy President, the DA is concerned about the killings of traditional leaders, but we are also concerned about the killings of thousands of South Africans.
Order, honorable members. Honorable members. Order.
Let me reiterate for those who weren't listening. The DA is concerned about the killings of traditional leaders, and we remain committed to caring about the thousands of South Africans who are killed.
Order, honorable members.
There has been a 20% increase in murder in South Africa over the last 5 years. And as you know, Deputy President, Section 205 of the Constitution, makes it the South African Police Service's responsibility to protect the lives and property of South African citizens, including our traditional leaders. In September 2019, the DA launched a rural safety plan. 1 month later, Minister Tele announced the SAPS rural safety strategy, which we welcomed. In that SAPS rural safety strategy, it made explicit provision.
Honorable member, what's the question?
It made explicit
You're running out of time.
for the involvement of traditional leaders. It has failed. What will you be doing to ensure that traditional leaders play a meaningful role in rural safety as per the rural safety plan of the South
Thank you.
African Police
Honorable
Service?
Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Thank you.
Order, honorable members.
Thank you, Honorable Member. We are all concerned about the killings, not only of traditional leaders, but of everybody in our country. We are concerned if there's increase in murders in our society generally, in the townships. But when it comes to rural safety strategy as well, we want to make sure that it works. Honorable Becky Cele has not said to me that it has failed. So I will be discussing with him because the cabinet has put crime prevention on fighting crime as one of the top priorities in the country. So we will be looking not only at crime generally, but also at rural safety. And in doing so, bring the traditional leaders on board. Yes, I think that's your concern. That are they involved? Yes, they should be involved. One of the responsibilities the president has given to me was to work with traditional leaders. So when we meet, we have only met the House of Traditional and Khoisan leaders so far, but we are now visiting provinces and we're arranging to meet with various traditional leaders. We will discuss the issue of rural safety and take into account their concerns. Thank you very much, Honorable.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Mkalipi.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Deputy President, the tussles over traditional leadership positions are driven not only by prospect of salaries, but also by the powers that traditional leaders think they have over a wide range of social issues, including control over land and the powers to make deal over community land by passing consultation with and approval by the communities. Your party has this ways by introducing and passing a number of laws that seeks to reenact Bantustan laws and give traditional leaders undue powers over the people. Have you considered reviewing the legislative framework regulating the institution of traditional leadership to ensure that this important institution is protected while having its powers regulated to prevent leadership excesses?
Honorable Deputy President.
Honorable Khalip, if you may help me, which laws are these? Just help me out.
The Bantustan's laws.
Are you saying we have introduced?
You are seeking to reintroduce.
Oh, seeking.
Yes, you must tell me.
Thank
the
you,
deputy
Honorable
president,
Mkalipi. You have clarified yourself.
Why do you want me to do your research? Yes, you,
Honorable Mkalipi,
Chairperson, who's asking questions?
Yes.
Me or it's him?
no, take your seat now. Thank you.
No, no,
Honorable Deputy President,
I'm weak. I'm very wrong.
no,
order, honorable members.
I was a bit confused because I thought you said we have introduced laws. Okay, I'm not going to say what do you mean by we are seeking? What I know we are doing, we are strengthening our relationship with the institution of traditional leadership. You can't wish them away if that's your wish. Working with traditional leadership doesn't mean you're going back to Bantu stance. We are saying that traditional leaders have a positive role to play as we speak where they are. And therefore you need to make sure you work with them, that in the way they exercise their own powers, they do it in regard to the fact that people have constitutional rights. People must enjoy human rights. So that's what we are doing. We're not going out there to fight with traditional leaders. We're going there to work with them because they are a critical element of how people live in those communities, and we need to work with them. So we are not seeking to introduce some Bantustan laws or, apartheid laws. We are a democratic organization. We run a democratic country. The system of traditional leadership will always be designed around those values of democratic institutions. And that's what we need to do, not to isolate them and seek to wish them away. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. Honorable members, question number 11 has been asked by the Honorable Heron to the Deputy President. The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Honorable Chair, the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa outlaws all unfair, discriminatory practices, particularly on the basis of sex, gender, or sexual orientation, whether committed by the government or by a private party. For this reason, the government strongly believes that the rights of lesbians, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, queer, asexual, that is LGBTQIA, are human rights. According to Human Dignity Trust, a strategic litigation NGO which defends and advances the rights of LGBTQIA plus people, there is a total of 67 countries around the world which criminalizes sexual activity. 41 of them, or 41 of these countries, criminalize private consensual sexual activity between women. 11 of them, or 11 countries, imposes death penalty, while 14 others criminalize transgender people. This gives you an idea of the enormity of the challenge at hand. And this matter is currently under discussion within our ranks. Concerns in many countries throughout the world have been raised, with whom you must engage, or we must engage persuasively ensure that they can recognize the rights of LGBTQIA people, we must endeavor to persuade, because the fact that the 67 countries in question criminalizes LGBTQIA people is indicative of the truism that our outlook of our laws are not really universal. We cannot therefore impose our will on other countries, but we can persuade them. We will have engagement with them. As I indicated, 67 out of 195 countries. This represents slightly more than a third. Specifically, if I may say, 34.3% of the world, which is no small number by any stretch of imagination. So basically, the point I'm making is that, yes, we have seen the resurgence of this as it happened recently in Uganda, but the point is that it's happening in many other countries. As South Africa, we respect the rights of LGBTQ and IA people. Their rights are protected in South Africa, will remain protected. They must enjoy the freedom of association like all of us do. So as South Africa, if we see other countries not doing this, seeking to oppress and criminalize, it is of major concern, and we'll seek to influence them, to persuade them in the various multilateral fora where we engage with them. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. The first follow-up question will be asked by the Honorable Heron.
Thank you, House Chair, and thank you, Honorable Deputy President. I'm glad that we agree that LGBTQI rights are human rights. Human rights are rights that people are entitled to by virtue of being human. They are indivisible, absolute, fundamental, and they are universal. And the key tension that often arises is between the universality of human rights and state sovereignty. And this is because human rights are absolute. This leads to the question is how we view our obligations with regards to human rights abuses that take place elsewhere and their protection. So the ANC claimed political rights from its foundation in 1912 and then broadened those rights to champion for wider democratic rights from the 1940s. And South Africa's post-apartheid democratic constitution has long been assumed to be a logical outcome of the ANC's human rights tradition. So when South Africa struggled for freedom from human rights abuses based on race, we relied on the universality of the right to be free regardless of our race. And we relied on the international community to recognize their moral and legal obligations to support the right for a free and democratic South Africa. We did not accept sovereignty as an acceptable excuse for a nation to turn a blind eye. Now our continent is blighted by a nation state that has passed a law that will condemn those who exercise their fundamental human rights to identify their gender and their sexual orientation to life imprisonment. And we have a president who reportedly doesn't accept this punishment and would like the LGBTQI to be murdered. Our recognition of universal basic human rights must extend beyond our borders, as we relied on others to act beyond their borders during our time of need. Surely, Deputy President, we cannot hide behind neutrality and sovereignty when there's a real risk that Africans will be killed.
What is the question, Honorable Member?
I'm getting to the question, Chair.
Your time is expiring, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Chair. Deputy President, do we not have a moral, legal, and reciprocal duty to take positive action to defend the lives of Ugandans who face state-sponsored murder? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Member, I've already said that in South Africa, the rights of LGBTQIA people are protected. They enjoy freedom of association, and we would like to see this happening all over the world. But I think we must be realistic that when we accept that the principles must be universal, we cannot just impose them to other countries. So the issue of sovereignty should not be undermined. I mean, I can't just walk into Uganda and say, you shall do this. But the point I'm making is that we will persuade them. We will engage with them, because that's the right way. That's why we have this multilateral fora, because we probably will not accept anybody coming to South Africa and say, you shall do this. But the point is, let the rights of everybody be protected. Let the LGBTQIA people enjoy human rights. They must enjoy human rights, and we will continue to fight for their protection. We'll continue throughout the world to persuade others to take the progressive step that South Africa has taken. We pride ourselves for that, but we need to persuade others. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. Honorable members, before I recognize the second supplementary, the member will ask the second supplementary question. I wish to remind you that the member who asks the question have 2 minutes. Can make a statement followed by a question within the 2 minutes. Subsequent supplementary questions is 1 minute. So you just put your question, and please don't make long statements because you won't have enough time to complete your intervention. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Beachwete.
Thank you, Deputy President. Will the Deputy President explain the importance of respecting national sovereignty of other countries and the importance of working through diplomatic channels, regional, continental, and international multilateral institutions in the international relations architecture of our country, so that Deputy President will assist Honorable Teron.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Cheta. I thought he already had me. But just to, okay, I nearly said just to rub it in. So I won't say to rub it in. Yeah, but you're quite right, Honorable Member, that what keeps us together, let me start with the continent. What keeps us together in a very stable environment is because we have institutions and fora, multilateral institutions. That's what also keeps the world together, where we are able to deposit our views, our proposals, and persuade others. So you are quite right. The respect for sovereignty is key in building stability in the way nations relate. So I can't agree with you more that we need to respect the sovereignty of other countries if we want them to respect our sovereignty as well. So where there are differences, we must persuade one another. And that's why we create these various institutions, engage, because they work. And I think there's a history that shows that these institutions are very useful, they work. So Honorable Heron, we will be engaging with other countries on this matter to seek to persuade them to move with our position. But I think we must be careful not to think we can impose our will everywhere. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Paul.
Thank you, Chairperson. We talk about sovereignty, but we also have protocols and charters as the African Union. And Uganda is indeed part of the African Union. So, Honorable Deputy President, as we celebrate Africa Day, we note that the African Union's agenda for 2063 envisioned a continent in which there is a universal culture of respect for human rights.
Honorable member, just give me an opportunity, please. Can we mute the microphone of the Honorable Mocheka? And Honorable Mocheka, please follow proceedings and don't switch on your microphone.
So the African Charter on Human and People's Rights seeks to uphold these rights, and any member state of the African Union can make referrals to the African Court on Human Rights where a state is actively violating human rights. Is the Deputy President willing to stand at the podium and to openly condemn Uganda's state-sponsored homophobia? And is the Deputy President able to confirm whether South Africa would be willing to refer this matter to the African Court on Human and People's Rights for investigation? And if not, why not?
Honorable Deputy President, before you respond, I want to remind members, order. A follow-up question is one question, not three questions. Over to you, Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. So I'll ask only the first one. Am I prepared to condemn? I'm prepared to engage. I think it's the most constructive way. Thank you very much. We'll be engaging them. Yeah.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Schlengwa. Is the whip taking it?
Honorable Chair, we'll take it from this side.
Do so, please.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Deputy President, given that historically the rights of the overlooked and marginalized group of people who engage in same-sex sexual relations have been closely linked with the HIV and AIDS pandemic, both nationally and internationally. In your role as a leader of the South African National AIDS Council, in the country's integrated response to the challenges facing HIV and AIDS, has the utterances of the Ugandan government posed a challenge to the South African government that we should then formulate a program in place so that we advocate for the LGBTIQ+, so because this is a universal issue, and that we emphasize that South Africans should not adopt anything that will not come from the South African government, but from outside, please.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. In SANEC, we have been discussing a lot of these issues, including a program. Deputy President is the chair of SANEC. So we will be discussing these issues in that platform. I agree with the member that we should seek as South Africa to develop our positive values and engage others with a view to persuading them on our positive values. And I think SANEC for us is a good platform because sometimes it's easy to stigmatize people. And in SANEC, we saw that as a big problem where people don't even, reveal the problems they have because they are stigmatized and so on. So I think we must avoid that as much as possible and deal with the problem. And SANEC is a good platform for us to deal exactly with what you are raising. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. As we proceed to the last question that has been asked by the Honorable Muela to the Deputy President. Honorable Deputy President. Before you, Honorable Deputy President, once again, the honorable members on the virtual platform, you are disrupting proceedings. And I ask the ICT just to attend to that matter, please. The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, we share the same sentiment with the honorable member that families are a basic and essential building block of any society. and collectively have a crucial role to play in building socially cohesive communities. The family bears the primary responsibility for the socialization of children, instilling values of responsible citizenship and belonging in society, and provision of emotional support to its members. Strengthening the role of the family is the protection of the children. Hence, we have decided that annually, as a country, we must commemorate National Children Protection Week to raise awareness of the rights of children as articulated in the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa and the Children's Act. Honorable Chair, next week from the 28th of May to the 4th of June, we will mark Child Protection Week under the theme, "Let us protect children during COVID-19 and beyond." We must do so because in society, when a child is wrong, the question is always asked, who is the family of this child? I was telling one of my friends, and I say, if you walk out of Parliament here and you see a young child on the street there sitting and sniffing glue, the first thing people say, "Ingwana ma." Umntwana kabani lo? In other words, ubuya kuyiphi family. So that emphasizes the importance of family. People don't start by saying, "Hey, this child is naughty." They say, whose child is this? Which family does this child come from? So the point we are making is that families are important in the upbringing of the children for the future and the future of our country. So we will continue to mobilize all sectors of society to protect children, especially in the most vulnerable communities. Honorable Chair, we must also begin to institutionalize the commemoration and celebrations of Family Day or Family Days, which was declared in 1995. Family Day celebrates, or the celebration thereof includes a range of activities and events that are geared towards bringing families together. This includes family picnics, braais, and outings to parks and recreational areas. It also includes families giving to the needy and the destitute in our communities, and thereby teaching others the spirit of Ubuntu. That is caring about others. Muthu ke muthu ka batho. Muntu ngumuntu ngabantu. However, Honorable Chair, we acknowledge that many families are facing serious challenges of poverty, lack of access to basic services, and social ills related to alcohol and drug abuse, teenage pregnancies, gender-based violence, and femicide, to mention but just a few. Many of the social ills that we are grappling with as a country are a result of either a weak family system or families that have in fact disintegrated. Supporting resilient families and by extension society and the economy is the ethos that underlines the design of all our government interventions. It is on this basis that the government will be tabling the revised white paper on families during this financial year. Honorable Chair, if I may just say briefly just to remind ourselves what the white paper is asking or seek to deal with. Firstly, is to provide guidelines and strategies for promoting family life and strengthening of family, In turn, the promotion of family life would enable families to fulfill their requisite roles and responsibilities in society, and ultimately make them catalysts for progress and national development. Second one, the paper seeks to serve as a vehicle to coordinate interventions that help the family from further disintegration and vulnerability. The third one, change the unfavorable conditions affecting families and communities. And lastly, strengthen partnerships with the communities, civil society organizations, traditional leaders, religious leaders, and the private sector. We need everybody. In addition, the Department of Social Development is working with civil society organizations on implementing parenting and intergenerational programs that seeks to build positive relations between children and their caregivers. Further, the government has established the Intersectoral Forum, comprising of representatives from government departments, civil society organizations, business and international organizations to ensure proper coordination of services to families, share best practices models, and identify service delivery gaps. Honorable Chairperson, strong families build stronger and more cohesive societies or communities, which in turn contribute to nation building. It is therefore incumbent upon all of us to play a role in our own families to advance our common national agenda. It is in the family that our young people first learn moral and ethical values, which give meaning in their lives. We call especially all men, abobaba, in our country to step up and be present in the lives of their children and their families. We must therefore continue to work collectively as social partners to implement socio-economic programs that seek to lift families out of poverty and hopelessness. I thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. I've been informed that the Honorable Mashlaule will take charge of the first supplementary question. On behalf of the Honorable D. Muela, in accordance with Rule 137, Sub-Rule 10, Paragraph A, I now recognize the Honorable Mashlaule.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you, Deputy President, for your emphasis on the centrality of the family as a basic unit of society, and also for emphasizing the need for mobilizing fathers to take a lead in the fight against GBV and femicide. Honorable Deputy President, there are institutions in the community that can play a critical role to build social cohesion in communities in addition to families. These institutions include religious institutions and institutions of traditional leadership. How will the Deputy President mobilize these institutions through the moral generation movement within the context of social compact to build social cohesion in communities? I thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Thank you, Honorable Matlaul. We want to get everybody involved, religious leaders, churches, traditional leaders, but also, Honorable Member, the Department of Arts and Culture has been at the forefront of ensuring the building of social cohesion in the country. And I remember in 2012, we even adopted some principles that underpin the building of a cohesive society. But also there's a moral regeneration movement, which we have to work with. And that of late, in fact, the moral regeneration movement have indicated that they would like to once again partner with us to address issues of social cohesion. So yes, we will do exactly that. We will make sure that we work with other institutions, focus on issues of moral regeneration, as raised by the moral regeneration movement, but also support the Department of Arts and Culture in their work to strengthen the issue of social cohesion. Because as I said earlier, cohesive societies in a way are a very strong building block for a united nation, for a nation that is strong, that is able to develop. So if you want to talk about nation building, you have to support elements of social cohesion. Let me just indicate some of the issues that the Departments of Arts and Culture have been working on in their program of social cohesion and nation building. They had the strategic objectives of the compact that they entered with other partners. One, for advancing constitutional democracy and human rights and equality, promoting non-racialism, non-sexism, equality and human solidarity, building unity among South Africans, as well as the region. And lastly, encouraging healing of individuals and communities. All this make it possible for the thriving of strong families in our communities. And we will continue to support these issues that are handled by the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, as they are the leader in our country to deal with issues of social cohesion. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. Deputy President, my apologies. The second supplementary question to the Deputy President will be asked by the Honorable Malatsi.
Mr. Deputy President, according to the Children's Institute based at UCT, there are approximately 25,000 child-headed households in South Africa. The majority of these are in Limpopo, the Eastern Cape, and KZN. And all of us know the pain and difficulty that comes with growing without a parent. And I think we can agree that the hardships that they represent to children can be dilapidating. You said in your response that stronger families can build stronger societies. On the basis of that, what is your government doing to support children from these child-headed households to empower them with the opportunity like other children to enjoy a fulfilling life and a stable family environment beyond the issuing of social grants that they used to survive on? Thank you.
Honorable Deputy President.
Indeed, we can't celebrate because we give mothers grants, because we know that it doesn't end there. And that's why I was quoting for you what the white paper seeks to achieve. So yes, you know, child-headed families sometimes comes as a result of problems that could be avoided. As I said earlier, sometimes families disintegrate, but also there's a situation where child-headed families come because, or as a result of both parents having passed on. It's not just integration. So we need to be as government, we must show empathy. We must find a way of supporting these children. And I'm sure the Department of Social Development is looking at these issues. As we develop the white paper, this is one of the issues that we are looking at, because when you are a child, you are not really already at the stage of running a family. So you can understand the burden on such a child. So I'm happy that you've raised this matter, that we must look into it. And definitely, I think I will see the participation of many of you as we go through this white paper and pushing it faster to be able to address these issues that affect us. So we will take that into consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Mashabela.
Chair, I'm not sure because she's online, but I will assist. I hope we are not going to ask me to
Please
answer.
proceed, Honorable Member.
Deputy President, this country is the most unequal in the world, and that inequality is largely based on race. It has one of the highest rates of unemployment, excessively high crimes rates, particularly sexual crimes. There is a general sense that the government, your government, does not know how to resolve many of the problems we have, and it permits chaos and disorder. How is it possible, therefore, to foster social cohesion when the conditions are such that there is growing disunity and mistrust in society based on material lack?
The Honorable Deputy President.
Honorable Mkhaliphi, our government, me and you, is not in disorder, does not allow disorder. What we need to do, Honorable Mkhaliphi, for our government, me and you, and now you are denying your government. Okay, let me leave you out then. Our government, leaving you away, will address these issues to ensure that there is no disorder. I would be surprised, in fact, if I was to find any government in the world that promotes disorder. I think it doesn't exist. There's no government that promotes disorder. So we are going to do everything in our power to ensure that children are supported. We're not doing a white paper because we are bored. We're doing it because it is needed to address these challenges. So I hope you are preparing your input in that regard. You want to see children protected? We're waiting for your input. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Hendricks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, and greetings, Honorable Deputy President. Deputy President, will fatherhood form the core of the white paper? Will you take a lead, Honorable Deputy President, the same lead that Chief Albert Lutuli took, where he made fatherhood very important, and every morning he had breakfast with the family, and at night he had supper with the family to show that the father is the central core of the family. And behold, if any one of his children or extended children did not attend these morning breakfast and after an evening supper. So, Deputy President, what role will fatherhood play in the white paper that you are driving?
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Hanif. Oh yes, indeed. We have to lead by example. So I can't come here and say to all of you, family is important, but when I walk out of here, I do something different. So Honorable Khalid, definitely, I'm sure many of us here like having breakfast at home, but we are not always home. Some of you are staying in villages here, you are not at home. But surely when we're at home, that's what we do. That's what we should do. So we take the comments of Honorable Hanif very seriously. I did say earlier that, good parents, including fathers, of course, because mothers normally do it naturally. But we are urging fathers, it's okay to take your children to a park, Honorable Squatch. It's okay. You are still a man. If you take your children to, it's okay. You are still a man if you play with your children when you are home. Because, you know, sometimes fathers think to be macho is to stay away from the children. But in fact, if you say children who grow well, who have positive values in society, are those who spend a lot of time with their parents, including fathers. So we are urging the fathers, Honorable Khalif, I will take a lead, we must all take a lead as honorable members to be there for our families. If we are not in the house, we are not in Cape Town, when we get home, let's go and have breakfast with our families, at dinner on Honorable Gungubele. I know you run a lot when you are free, but go home, have breakfast. Yeah, but in short, Honorable Khanif, we take your challenge. Let's lead by example. Thank you very much.
Honorable members, that concludes questions to the Deputy President. I thank the Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you. Order, honorable members. Honorable members. Honorable members, I now would like to recognize the Honorable MGE Hendricks, who in terms of Rule 91 has requested an opportunity for a personal explanation to the House. The Honorable Hendricks.
Thank you very much, Honorable.
Order, honorable
House Chair.
members.
I thank you for the opportunity to express and read into the record my explanation in terms of Rule 91(2) in light of the demand made by the Democratic Alliance that I be investigated for committing an act of misconduct. I want to state upfront my extreme discomfort in being required to discuss matters of such personal nature on such a public platform. The matter in question is deeply private. However, I swore an oath, which I take seriously, so the sharing must follow. Firstly, I categorically state that at no point during my address in question did I willfully and deliberately ignore an instruction from the Honorable Chairperson. It is however my misfortune that I have a hearing impairment and I resultantly have great difficulty in hearing someone when they are not addressing me in front of me, where I can be aided by visual cues. Thus, by virtue of the position I was in, I was unable to hear the instruction of the Honorable Chair. To evidence my lack of malicious intention, when the Sergeant at Arms approached me to explain the instruction of the presiding officer, though admittedly taken by great surprise, I immediately and without quarrel complied with the request for me to leave the chamber. I'm currently seeking treatment to alleviate my impairment. For the past year, I've tried to correct my hearing disability through various specialized hearing aids, which costed me
honorable
up to
members.
60,000 rand. This costly exercise has, however, had limited effects. I do beseech accommodation and understanding from the House as I navigate these challenges. For my part, I will certainly be more vigilant about minding my time in future, particularly under the circumstances of my disability. I must say I was utterly embarrassed by the incident. I apologize that my conduct may have come across as disrespectful to the Honorable Chair and members present. It was certainly not intentionally done. I stand in utter embarrassment, and I hope that the Democratic Alliance has gotten its
Order,
pound of
honorable
flesh
members.
as a result thereof. I've submitted a written apology regarding this matter, and I extend my gratitude to the Honorable Deputy Speaker, who has acknowledged and accepted the apology and has expressed his appreciation for it. With permission from the Chair, allow me to take this opportunity to also explain my conduct at the recent virtual meeting of members. At that meeting, I was chastised by the Chairman for speaking from a virtual platform. However, this was due to my inability to have been present at the WIP's meeting, where I believe it was agreed that members would refrain from doing so. Mr. Singh currently represents small parties at WIP meetings, and the record or report of disagreement had not reached me. I unfortunately relied on my experience attending other virtual meetings of the House. Even during subsequent meetings I attended, I was allowed to address the virtual forum and did so even while I was in extreme pain. Allow me, Honorable House Chair, thus to apologize for any inadvertent misstep. Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable members, we now will move to the first motion on the order paper, which is a motion in the name of the Chief Whip of the Majority Party. I now recognize the Honorable Chief Whip of the Majority
Point of
Party.
order, House Chair.
Yes, what's the point of order, Honorable Member? Yes.
House Chair, these people that wants to apologize, can we have that on the program or on the order paper? Because he just comes here and make some long speech of a State of the Nation address on the name of the apology. So can we next time just have it more organized and planned and put minutes to it? Because we can't listen to such long apology.
Thank you.
Of some person. Thank you.
Honorable members,
Wasting our time.
order. Honorable members, you must read the rule book. Here's the rules. In terms of Rule 91, Sub-Rule 2, and I will read it for you. A member may also, with the prior consent of the presiding officer, explain matters of a personal nature, but that such matters may not be debated, and the member must confine himself or herself strictly to the vindication of his or her own conduct, and may not speak for longer than 3 minutes. It's thus perfectly in order with the rules, and that's why it was allowed. Honorable members, order. If you would have listened, then you would have heard what the member said. And it is not up for debate according to the rules. If you want to have any further input, put on it right to the speaker. I now recognize the Deputy Chief Whip.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson. I move that the House notes that the term of the Office of the Public Protector expires on the 14th of October, 2023, and resolves in accordance with Section 193, subsection 5 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, 1996, to establish an ad hoc committee to nominate a person for appointment as public protector. The committee to consist of 11 members as follows: ANC 6, DA 2, EFF 1, and other parties 2. Further consists of 14 non-voting members of the Assembly as follows: ANC 2, DA 1, EFF 1, and other parties 10. Exercise the powers in Rule 167 that it may deem necessary for the performance of its tasks, and the report to be tabled to the House on the 31st of August, 2023. House Chairperson, I so move.
Honorable members, I now put the motion. Are there any objections? No objections, agreed to. The Secretary will read the first order.
Consideration of report of Standing Committee on Appropriations on Eskom Debt Relief Bill.
I now recognize the Honorable Chief Whip of the Majority Party.
Honorable House Chairperson, I move that the report be adopted.
The motion is that the report be adopted. Are there any objections? Yes, Honorable Member.
Please would you note the objections of the DA?
Are there any further objections?
Please note the objection of the EFF. House Chair.
Noted.
And the ACDP, thank you.
Noted. Are there any further objections? With those objections, the report is agreed to. The Secretary will read the second order.
First reading debate, Eskom Debt Relief Bill.
I now invite the Honorable Acting Minister of Finance, the Honorable Gungubele, to the podium.
Honorable Speaker, Honorable Chair, Honorable Deputy Minister of Finance Musondo, Ministers and Deputy Ministers present, Honorable Members of Parliament, His Excellency the Deputy President. Thank you, Honorable Speaker and Honorable Members, for this opportunity to present the Eskom debt relief. Anvagal. Thank you, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, for this opportunity to present the Eskom debt relief bill. The introduction of this bill comes at a time when the security and reliability of supply of electricity is top of the mind for all South Africans, and rightfully so. Honorable Chair, last year during the medium-term budget policy statement, the Minister of Finance announced that the National Treasury is leading a process to finalize debt relief program designed to restore Eskom to efficiency and financial sustainability. At the time, the Minister of Finance reminded us that while we have spent billions of rands supporting Eskom, there have been limited improvements in the reliability of electricity or the financial health of the company. It was clear that as the government, we needed to adopt a different approach, an approach that will strengthen the balance sheet of the utility, enabling it to restructure and undertake the investment and maintenance needed to support the security of the electricity supply. An approach that will allow Eskom to focus on planned performance and capital investment and ensure that it no longer relies on government bailouts. Is our view then, and it remains our view now, that an optimally designed debt relief arrangement with the right conditions can be leveraged to support the structural reform of the electricity sector that will enhance South Africa's long-term growth prospects. Following extensive technical work and consultation, in 2023 budget speech, the Minister of Finance proposed a total debt relief arrangement for Eskom of about 254 billion. This proposed arrangement consists of two components. One is amount of 184 billion, which represent Eskom's full debt settlement requirement in 3 tranches over the medium term. Second is a direct takeover of up to 70 billion of Eskom's loan portfolio in 2025-26. Honorable Chair, the Eskom debt relief bill, a money bill, was tabled to give effect to the debt relief arrangement. Honorable Chair, again, there are several key elements of the Eskom debt relief bill, and it is worth highlighting some of these here. Firstly, the bill proposes that National Treasury advance the amounts envisaged as loan to Eskom on the dates determined by the Finance Minister. Next, secondly, the bill enables the Minister to impose conditions for the conversion of portions of the amount of the loan for each financial year into shares issued by Eskom to the state. Thirdly, the bill requires that National Treasury, in its quarterly reports to the relevant parliamentary committees, report on Eskom's compliance with the conditions and disclose the amounts of the conversions. Compliance by Eskom with the conditions will be over a period of 3 years, commencing from the date of the first advance. Honorable members, Honorable Chair, a failure by Eskom to achieve and or adhere to specific conditions will cause the loan amount from that quarter to be repaid to the National Revenue Fund at market rates at the end of period. Prior to such repayment, government will offer Eskom 1 quarter to rectify non-compliance. Quarterly meetings between the National Treasury, the Department of Public Enterprises, and Eskom will take place to ensure progress is made in achieving these conditions. It is also expected that the board will sign off on a quarterly basis on compliance with conditions. Because of the structure of the debt relief, Eskom will not need further borrowing during the debt relief period. This step, in combination with the tariff announced by the energy regulator this year, will allow Eskom to undertake the investment and maintenance needed resolve the electricity challenges currently faced by the country. In addition, National Treasury has appointed an international consortium headed by VE Energy Service comprising of Steerage Energy Services, Donia Power and Heat, KWS Energy, Knowledge, and RWET Technology International to undertake an independent assessment of Eskom's coal power plants. The consortium has already concluded the site visits of all 14 coal power stations and transmission division, and the project is expected to be concluded by July 2023.
Honorable Minister, your time has expired.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam.
The next speaker is the Honorable Buthelezi.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Deputy President, Honorable Chief Whip, Honorable Deputy Chief Whip, Honorable Members, Honorable Acting Minister of Finance, Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, may you have a happy Africa Day and remember all those martyrs who perished for the liberation of our beautiful continent. The African National Congress supports the 2023 Eskom Debt Relief Bill. What is this bill about? Honorable members, it's not just about numbers. This bill is about protecting lives and livelihoods. It's about supporting the economy. It's about supporting, protecting, and creating jobs for young people and all South Africans. This bill is about food security and fighting hunger and starvation. We boldly say this because without electricity security, all these things we mentioned above cannot be achieved. Therefore, honorable members, as you ascend to this podium, beyond that saying no to this bill, you'll be saying to the unemployed, the farmers, the industrialists, you do not care about their plight. Let them fend for themselves. Nibatsheleke abantu baseningizimu Afrika ukuthi nina nithi uhulumeni akangayingeni indaba kagesi. Abazibonele baphuma kanjani. Let me take this opportunity, honorable members, and congratulate our Minister of Finance, Enoch Godongwana, for being recognized by the continent as the Minister of Finance of the Year. Congratulations, Minister. Other conditions of the bill include the 254 billion rand, which can only be used to pay debt and interest. When Eskom disposes of its non-core assets, the proceeds should be used to decrease the debt. We are also saying as the committee that Eskom should be allowed to invest in energy generation, especially the future of electricity, the renewables like solar, wind, hydropower, and nuclear. In any case, that's what the energy mix is about. If Eskom does not, it would mean it would be perpetually dependent on the private sector. Moral hazard keeps on rearing its ugly head. Basically, what that means is that there is a danger of Eskom saying, quote, we are too important and too big to fail. Government will always come to our rescue when we mess up. Yes, Eskom is critical for lives and livelihood. Yes, we won't allow it to fail. But, and a big but, honorable members, let the people who mess up face the consequences. South Africans, through their parliament, are foregoing many things to assist Eskom. The opportunity costs in terms of schools, hospitals, roads are huge. Honorable members, the debt relief of Eskom is just one of the many missing pieces of the puzzle. The question of the municipal debt standing at 56.3 billion rand and still growing must be part of the challenges that must be attended to. We therefore support the electricity debt relief of municipalities. We are ready to assist. However, it would be an exercise in futility to cancel the debt today and the following day it starts to accumulate. We therefore support the condition of National Treasury to insist on prepaid meters. In the same vein, we call on communities, government departments and their entities, business and all users of electricity to pay their bills. Honorable members, we need to address the question of the jockey. I'm referring to the Group Chief Executive of Eskom. In the report, we stress that the person appointed to the position should be fit and proper. He must have requisite skills and track record to have operated at the highest level. We are stressing the point of that singa kuzulwa elilodwa kaningi. A proper probate and security clearance should be done before confirming an individual. Let us not appoint conservative politicians who masquerade as CEOs. Let us not appoint someone who, instead of managing the organization, become an intelligence officer. Let us not appoint someone who pretends to be a CEO, only to find out we are appointing Shakespeare, in other words, book writers. For this parliament to give 254 billion rand to Eskom, the person at the top should focus on Eskom and Eskom only. Manje ke malunga ahloniphekileyo alendlu asingaxabani ngale. Sithi laba abaphikisana nalomthetho abaphumele obala okwekati elimhlophe ehlungwini. Nithini? Nithi osomabhizinisi abanika abantu abantulayo imisebenzi abangawutholi ugesi. Nithi izingane ezikoleni akufanele zithole ugesi. Nithi abalimi abakhulu nalabo abafufusayo abazibonele uhulumeni angazingeni zabo. Ngabe nithi abantu abagulayo abasezinhlungwini abalinde ukuhlinzwa abayekwe. Honorable members, because the African National Congress understands electricity is critical for life sustenance and the economy, we therefore support the bill. We also urge all honorable members to follow us and support the bill. This is too important to play petty politics with. Ngiyazi ke abanye bazoza bazokhalalana bangasincedi ngesixazululo. This bill is providing an important variable in this electricity solving equation. UKhongolo uyayisupporta ibill, ngiyabonga.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The next speaker is the Honorable Graham.
Honorable Chairperson, our people are tired. Not just tired, Chairperson, ons moeg is nou moeg. 2022 was a tough year for our economy, and by all indications, 2023 is going to be worse. Along with external global factors, load shedding has had a detrimental effect on the South African economy. Notably, loss of income for 2022 is pegged at 300 billion rand and is projected to reach 375 billion rand in this year. And while we lost 61 billion rand in tax revenue last year, it is likely to be in the region of 75 billion in 2023. Minister of Electricity, Dr. Ramokgopa, has already predicted that 850,000 jobs will be shed by the end of this year as a result of the energy crisis. Every job loss impacts our taxpayer base, a diminishing source of revenue for a government that clearly couldn't manage its way out of a paper bag. Chairperson, we all know that Eskom is in trouble, not because Andre de Ruyter wrote a book, despite what the ANC will have us believe, but because of rampant corruption, governance failures, and malfeasance. Eskom is also not suddenly in trouble. Load shedding started 16 years ago. This government had more than enough time to plan and implement solutions to the emerging energy crisis. But instead of what was needed to prevent it from worsening, everything was done to bring the utility to its knees. And now South Africans are being asked to foot the bill for a 254 billion rand bailout over the next 3 years. The premise upon which this bailout lies is in the Eskom debt burden of 423 billion rand, which if alleviated will go some way to unlocking investment and financing. It is believed by government that this will restore South Africa's financial credibility. It is astounding that the ANC is so clueless as to the connection between our financial credibility and their systemic and inculcated corruption, coupled with a total lack of our oversight, accountability, and punitive action. Aside from the fact that we oppose the bailout on a matter of principle, the Democratic Alliance has specific reservations about the agreement. The conditions attached to the bill require that the funding only be used for debt and interest repayments. In addition, no borrowing will be allowed for a period of 3 years. This will have a significant impact on Eskom's ability to increase its transmission capabilities, an absolute imperative if the utility is going to facilitate the growth of renewable energy needed to address the energy crisis. Furthermore, the capital expenditure is limited to maintenance of existing infrastructure. No new developments may be undertaken. So while we face a winter of extended hours of load shedding, The debt relief bill appears to counter the Just Energy Transition Investment Plan, which leverages $8.5 billion for, amongst others, new and existing transmission build-outs between 2023 and 2027. Surely the conditions attached to this bailout are counterintuitive for a government that would have us believe they are serious about ending load shedding.
Honorable member, can you just give us an opportunity? There's a member who has his hand up at the back. Why are you rising, honorable member?
Honorable Chair, I'm rising because the honorable member uthi asinangqondo. Uyasithuka, is that parliamentary? Uthi asinangqondo.
Please continue, honorable member.
Thank you, Chair. If ever there was a sign that the ANC have run out of ideas, this is it. In 2024, we have an opportunity to turn this country around before it is too late, and it is almost too late. But it can only happen if we vote the incompetent, corrupt, and failing ANC out and vote in a DA government that has the will, capacity, and new ideas to fix our beloved country. It can be done, it must be done, and with a DA government in power next year, it will be done. I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable members, I did not rule against the member because it's a broad statement that was made and it was not directed at any particular person. So it's part of the debate, it's part of politics that statements like that are made. The next speaker is the Honorable Mawatwe.
Thank you very much, House Chair. House Chair, the Economic Freedom Fighters rejects the proposed Eskom debt relief bill, and we reject it for both practical and principled reasons. As the EFF House Chair, we agree that we need to recapitalize Eskom. We need to give Eskom enough money to maintain its overall generation, transmission, and distribution infrastructure, complete the outstanding works in Medupi and Kusile as soon as possible, and build additional generation capacity. However, the bill before the National Assembly today seeks to do the opposite. The bill aims to provide Eskom with 78 billion in the current financial year, 66 billion, Minister, in the next financial year, 24-25, and 40 billion in the 25-26 financial year. This is part of the 254 billion debt relief arrangements. Despite ongoing electricity blackouts, House Chair, and the real threat of a national grid collapse, it is clear that the government, under the leadership of the incompetent Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa and Mr. Pravin Gordhan, who we told last week was way over his head, has no practical plans to salvage the situation. We want to warn all South Africans today, House Chair, in this August House. This bill is not going to solve any problems. If anything, it will only fast-track the national grid collapse. An unequivocal conditionality was set for Eskom that the 260 billion allocated to East Eskom's balance sheet must not be spent on electricity generation. Instead, the money we are told here today to give to Eskom is to repay the loans. In fact, House Chair, part of Mr. Gordhan and National Treasury's agenda to privatize Eskom through this loan was to impose a condition that Eskom must agree to recommendations made by a consortium of some companies that are based in Europe. This is the mess that we are subjected to today. What is even more shocking, House Chair, is that Eskom was made to agree to these conditions even before the so-called team of consortium was even appointed. They did not know what they were agreeing to. If those people in Europe come and say privatize all Eskom generation, Eskom will have no option but to privatize generation capacity. That is the mess that you are talking about, House Chairperson. In fact, our correct and superior observation is that Mr. Ramaphosa and Mr. Gordhan were instructed to allow the national grid to collapse so that when those recommendations by Europeans are tabled before us, we see them as an acceptable option. This is precisely how capital works. It's a known tactic of privatization driven by greed, disregarding and undermining everything else with national interests. It is indeed a classical case of neocolonialism par excellence. House Chair, this bill we should be tabling today should be allocating money to new and additional generation capacity to bring additional electricity to the grid to protect the economy and improve our people's livelihoods. The bill should be allocating money to
On a point
insulate
of order,
essential
Chair.
services such as water supply, clinics, small
Honourable
and medium
Mawatwe.
enterprise.
Let me just hear what the point of order is. Honorable Khadebe, I want to hear
No,
what the
thank you,
point of order
Chairperson.
is. Order.
I'm rising on rule 85.
No, honorable
The member
members.
has just,
Honorable members, I
I'm
want to
rising
hear
up.
what the point of order is.
Mr. Chairperson, I'm rising on rule 85. The issue of the use of the substantive motion. The speaker on the floor has just said that the president and the minister were instructed somewhere to
Order,
collapse the
honorable
Eskom.
members. Honorable member. Order. I'm following the debate. You should have raised that point when the statement was made. We have moved on from that point now. May I order, honorable members?
No,
I won't hesitate to ask you to leave the house. Honorable Khadebe.
Chairperson, we are expected to raise our hand through the icon. I raised the hand long time ago. That's why I had to just to come in now. If your staff, the table staff can look, my hand is there on the icon that I've already raised my hand. And this is a problem because not the first time such a thing is happening. I don't know whether there's no one who's monitoring.
Order, honorable members. I don't want to prolong a discussion on a point of order. We will ask the staff, because they did not alert me at the point when the hand went up, to check the Hansard, and I will come back with a considered ruling on what the member has said. But please, you must clearly indicate, and I ask the staff to follow the proceedings so that they can indicate to me as well. You may proceed, honorable member. Order.
Thank you very much, House Chair.
Order, honorable members.
House Chair, the bill should be allocating money to insulate essential services such as water supply, clinics, small and medium enterprises, and other essential infrastructure from damages that might occur as a result of electricity blackouts or a complete grid collapse. We should be allocating money, House Chair, to floating storage regasification. We should be allocating money for both hybrid, off-grid and microgrid electricity solutions for metropolitan municipalities and strategic sectors such as agriculture to ensure food security. House Chair, we should be allocating money for a comprehensive conditional grant for metropolitan municipalities and all other municipalities with hybrid and off-grid solutions, because clearly there are no solutions that are going to come from the national government. Chair, we should be allocating money to attract investment in all specific special economic zones for manufacturing, solar panels, investors, batteries, and all other electronic equipment that are essential for hybrid and off-grid solutions. The bill that should be before the National Assembly to seek our approval for allocation of money should be a bill that seeks to give our people in informal settlements and townships immediate and practical solutions to deal with electricity blackouts. It should be a bill that seeks to give small businesses some relief so that they can continue to operate even when the national grid is under pressure. But we know there's no capacity. We don't understand why the Minister of Public Enterprise has not resigned, because we told him earlier this week that he has failed the people of South Africa and he must resign. Any bill that you should pass should be to provide our people with dependable electricity today, instead of prioritizing greedy capitalists obsessed with making profits, even at the expense of the lives of our people. House Chair, we want solutions for our people, solutions that will change the lives of our people for the better. We don't want some European recommendations driven by greed and the love for profit over the lives of our people, as it is the case right now. Our people deserves affordable, uninterrupted, sustainable, dependable supply of electricity. The EFF rejects the proposed Eskom bill. Thank you, House Chair.
The next speaker is the Honorable Buthelezi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Greetings to the committee chair, Sheng Vulan. As members of this House, Honorable Chair, we find ourselves stuck between the rock and the hard place with regards to the ever ongoing financial collapse of Eskom. Furthermore, our country's power utility cannot fulfill its mandate, which is to generate, transmit, and distribute electricity to all South Africans. Eskom has been experiencing serious financial and operational challenges due to governance failure, malfeasance, and this has been going on for the past 2 decades. I say we are stuck, Honorable Chairperson, because members of this House have no other choice than to support this debt relief bill. If we don't support this bill, South Africa risks a total blackout. It is most shameful that we have been held hostage by this ailing state-owned entity. Eskom has certainly become too big to fall, and government has been dragging its feet in fixing the mess that we find ourselves in. In fact, House Chair, this government has not been dragging their feet, but is totally responsible for the mess that we find ourselves in. Billions of bailouts have been going to Eskom each and every year, yet we see no significant changes taking place. All we can get from Eskom is various stages of load shedding, scandal after scandal, implicating top management of Eskom and senior politicians seated on my right. How long will this continue, Honorable Chairperson? How long will it take for Eskom to become feasible again? We have taken money from all South Africans in the form of taxes to cover debt liabilities and mishaps in Eskom. Yet cost of electricity to an ordinary household has skyrocketed in the recent years. We can't really keep our lights on in critical public institutions.